Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Under a Rock with Brielle and Guerlain. Today, we are continuing our discussion of Avatar The Last Airbender, Book 2, episodes 16, 17, and 18.
Yes. So let's jump into it.
Yeah, right.
There's a
It's so funny. I texted Guerlain like the night before when we watched the episodes, and I was like, I don't want to do it. I don't want to watch the episode. It's so sad. I don't want to do it.
yes, a lot of tear bending with these episodes.
Oh, definitely,
It'll
yeah.
cause you to tear bend.
What's interesting though is like when I first watched the show in that like binge that I did like in the summer, I didn't cry during Tales of Ba Sing Se, like the one with Iroh. I didn't cry during that part, but I sobbed during Appa's last days. This time around, I teared up a little bit with Iroh's like little story, but Appa's last day didn't make me cry. I think because I kind of knew what was happening and I knew it was all okay. I just didn't cry this time. It was still sad, obviously, but I didn't cry this time, so that was maybe an improvement.
Like, did you, when you first watched it, did you possibly think that he would be like severely injured that like affect the rest of the series moving on?
I don't know if I thought that. I think I was just worried that, it would be a lot more episodes before Aang was reunited with him. That's what I was afraid of. Like, I was afraid that, like, season 2 was going to end and he was still not going to be reconnected with Appa. Something that is really cool, though, about Appa's last days is that we kind of see that Appa has some airbending abilities. I think just by naturally being a creature or a species that is so entwined with the air nomads and with that like culture, it's really cool to see him like push people away with his breath and use his tail like that, because it kind of hints that he has some airbending abilities.
Yeah.
Which is really cool.
But in the episode when I forgot which episode it was, but they were talking about the origins of each bending.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
And he said like the air nomads learn from the bisons, and
That's
Aang
true.
was
Yeah.
like, "Hey, Appa, maybe you could teach me some moves someday."
Yeah.
I forgot which episode that was though.
Yeah, I don't remember either, but that's true. So yeah, so it makes sense that Appa would know how to do some very basic kind of airbending moves to help protect him. So something that I know about this episode is apparently, and I don't know the exactness of it, but apparently this episode got an award or some kind of commendation from a organization that helps save animals from the circus, because of the way that the episode depicted the horrors of circus life. I remember seeing that like a bunch of times when I was just like learning about Avatar after I'd watched it. This episode apparently got like some kind of award or commendation from a like nonprofit organization about like the ways that they showed the horrors of the circus and the way that animals are treated in the circus.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
Well, when you think about it, this episode came out 10 years ago. I mean, let's see. So that was like 2010-ish. Maybe 2000.
Like they got it around the time it was premiered, or
Yeah, around the time it was premiered.
so that would be like 2005, 6 ish.
Really?
7.
That's a long time ago. Darn.
Yeah.
But that was around the time that I think people were just starting to realize that maybe like Ringling Brothers, Barnum and Bailey didn't treat their animals well. Like,
Oof.
People kind of ignored the reality of the situation with circus animals. And granted, I'm not trying to be like, oh, every, circus performer treated their animals terribly. They hated them. They tortured them. I'm not suggesting that. I'm sure that plenty of them, treated their animals with respect and kindness, but you can't deny that there were plenty of, horrible conditions for these animals. So like apparently this episode was like specially noted for that.
I mean, it makes sense because the way the ringmaster, that's what you call him?
Ringmaster, ringleader.
The way he like treated the vulture thing. What would you call that animal?
It's like a vulture cat almost or something.
Very odd.
Yeah.
But the way he treated that, and then
the platypus bear.
The platypus bear, and he was whipping Appa, making him scared.
Making him scared of fire.
Yes. So it makes sense that they would get a award for that, for showing that.
It's so sad, this episode, because you can see how desperately Appa is trying to get back to Aang. I mean, he goes to every place that they went. He's just like a day late, which is so sad. Like he goes to the library, he goes to those like wasps nest, and he just misses them by like a day or an hour, and it's so sad.
Yeah.
It really, really is. And it's also kind of funny in a way because Appa is like the only sky bison. Like he's the only one. And it's very well known that he's with the Avatar, considering he's an air like bison. He's a sky bison. So while I know that money is a very powerful motivator, you'd think that people would be like, huh, a sky bison? Doesn't the Avatar, one of the most powerful people in our world, have a sky bison? Huh. Stands to reason that he'd probably be looking for this. Maybe I shouldn't buy it and torture it. Like, you think that they would, like, think, like they would be like, maybe this isn't a good idea to, like, torture this animal and, like, keep him away from his master, considering the absolute power that Aang has, all the stories that we must have been told.
I feel like the 100 years of the Avatar's absence has made people less respectful to who Aang is.
I mean, considering that the circus is like a Fire Nation circus, that goes doubly.
Oh yeah, that makes sense for them.
But even so, like I just
like the beetle heads, like you would think that they would.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah.
And we see in this episode, Appa getting captured, and we hear the guy, the sandbender, saying, "Put a muzzle on him." The way this dude acted in this episode, compared to how he acted when he was confronted by Aang, I was like, oh yeah, you should have got Kyoshi, man.
Yeah.
You should have got Kyoshi because he was an asshole.
He really was.
Ugh.
And he folded like a house of cards. The minute that Aang was like, you put a muzzle on Appa, he broke. So he wasn't even like strong enough in his convictions, which is so like annoying. This episode also just gives us a little more background about Aang as well. Like we see that when he was a child, he was basically allowed to choose Appa as not just a pet, but as a companion. I feel like a lot of people in the series view Appa as just Aang's pet, but he really isn't. I would kind of view Momo as a pet. Like Momo is their pet. Like, yeah. But Appa is so much more than that. He really is a companion to Aang, and he really is a valued member of the team. And they need him. It's very clear when they're in Ba Sing Se that they need Appa, that they're kind of stuck there. They're stranded. So to know that, like, he and Appa have been together for so long, and they literally froze in the ice together, I think speaks to their bond and how strong it is.
When Appa meets with Guru Patik, he mentions how their souls, their energies are intertwined like forever, and he was able to guide Appa to Aang because of that connection that they got.
Yeah,
which is it speaks to your point. It's just so beautiful how close they are and everything.
This episode I think also shows good and bad of people. So like we have the bad earthbenders, the ones that like stole him in the desert, and then we have like the Kyoshi warriors who are good earthbenders. Well, they're not earthbenders, but good people from the Earth Kingdom. We have the bad people from the Fire Nation who put him in the circus, but we also have that little boy who gives Appa food and tells him to run away and helps like get him free. So again, as an audience, we're just consistently reminded that there are good and bad people on every side. You know, it just hammers home again.
That was really interesting that Appa viewed that little kid as like kind of as Aang. Like he had, I guess maybe he gave the same aura as Aang.
Yeah, he laughed and it sounded the same.
Yeah. I thought that was cute.
And so Appa escapes the circus. He goes to the Western Air Temple.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he meets Guru Pathik. Is it Pathik or Patik?
I think Patik.
Oh.
I don't know.
We are going to talk about him. We are going to talk about him. Not in this episode, but in the next episode when he's like talking to Aang, we're going to talk about him because I have some issues with him.
Okay.
I just want to put it out there. Don't worry, I'm not ignoring the issues. This isn't a time for it. I will say that I do appreciate his kindness and his understanding, because when Appa first gets to him, he doesn't try to like talk to Appa or like go to him. He's like, all right, you're stressed. I'm going to lay down. And he just lays down for like days while Appa just stares at him because he knows that if he tries to get any closer, Appa might attack him. Like he's very wise, and he's also very understanding and patient. And I think those are good qualities.
Yeah.
And it's nice that he helps Appa find Aang. Like he cares about Appa, and he cares about the fate of the world. And he, like you said, he sees the connection between Aang and Appa.
The little bedhead joke was cute. Hey, I was just there with the
Appa was so cute.
Yeah.
That's one of my all-time favorite Appa looks. Top 5 Appa looks. Appa with bedhead. And then Appa runs away a little bit more, and he fights like a wild boar, basically. Appa can be scary. Damn, he is like, I mean, I knew that already. I knew that Appa was not someone or something to be messed with. But when he's at like on his like last like meal, basically, and at the end of his rope, he gives it his all, and he is scary. He like attacked that boar. He was not messing around.
He threw down.
Yeah.
It goes back to what you said. I think either episode 3 or 4 of the podcast when you said Aang is very passive and he won't attack, and like he's not gonna like do anything to harm you, but Appa will. Remember when you said that?
I did remember that. Yeah, when Appa like throws the guy off from the northern water tower, he just does that. Yeah, Appa is ready to kill and willing. Like he is not.
Yeah, but he was acting in self-defense.
Oh, of course, yeah. I'm not saying that he like goes out and tries to hurt people, but he isn't afraid to.
Yeah.
He isn't afraid to.
He throws down. It just the little detail of when, I think this is the one and only time, I could be wrong, when we actually see like blood in Avatar, because when Appa took out one of the porcupine things, you see a little squirt.
Oh, I don't remember that, but I'll take your word for it. Yeah, they don't really show a lot of like blood and stuff and gore. I mean, it is a kid's show. That's to be expected.
Yeah.
You know? Oh, I just realized I'm going in the wrong order. He sees the Kyoshi warriors first, and then he meets the guru. Sorry, I'm going in the wrong order.
I could chop it.
It's all a blur. It's all a blur. He was just very sad the whole time. No, but then the Kyoshi warriors show up, Suki, my bae. And they help him, and they give him food, and they like clean him up, and they kind of fix his wounds because they're good people.
Yeah.
They're good people. I love the Kyoshi warriors. And then the Fire Nation girls randomly show up, and you're like, okay. And then they fight. And it's honestly really, really amazing. I mean, we know, spoilers, we know that Azula, this is when Azula captures Suki and sends her to Boiling Rock. We know that. But still, she holds her own against Azula and the other girls for a while.
Yeah.
Like, she did not go down without a fight, which is very impressive, especially considering that Azula is a bender and Suki is not. One thing that I do not understand is, so all the girls are fighting each other. The girls are fighting each other. And May is like, oh, you guys are so colorful. It makes me nauseous, which fair. You know, I get it. You're kind of an all black emo babe. And then Ty Lee was like, you are not prettier than us. What does that have to do with anything? No one said anything about pretty. I don't understand why she would just randomly say that. It wasn't like one of the Kyoshi warriors said like, oh, these ugly girls are here, or like, you know, let's show these Fire Nation girls how real women fight. Like, there was nothing to insinuate that anybody thought that anyone was prettier than anyone else. So I don't know why Ty Lee said that.
I think it just speaks to her character, like how ditzy she is.
Maybe, but it strikes me as like such a weird, misplaced line. Like, it makes me think that there was another line before that got cut or something. I don't know.
That's a possibility. I just saw it as like Ty Lee's mind isn't always in the right place, or like, because you're fighting someone and she's just thinking, does she think she's prettier than me? She's not prettier than me. Let me tell her. Like, that's how I took it, but it could be a misplaced line, and maybe there was dialogue that was cut.
Also, like, girls don't think that way, but all right.
Yeah.
Like, sure, I look at other women and sometimes I'm like, she's pretty. But I've never been like, well, sometimes I think I'm prettier than that woman, because it's true. But
Talk your shit.
I promise, I'm very humble. But like, I don't know. It was a weird line. I don't know.
One thing that I appreciate how they write Azula's character is that she's not afraid to make some puns.
No, she's not. I love this whole series. I feel like everybody in the series makes one or two good puns every now and then. And I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I think that's great.
When are you the Avatar's fangirls? And Tyler's just like, oh, I get it.
Oh man, love it. And then so Appa, with the help of the guru, gets to Ba Sing Se, and he's in the city, and then the Dai Li capture him, and he's locked away. End of episode. What happens next? Dun, dun, dun.
And we see the footprint that Momo finds.
Yeah. So anything else you want to say about Appa's lost days?
It was a very sad episode.
Yeah.
But like you said, it really shows the gray. It shows good Fire Nation people, shows bad Fire Nation people, good Earth Nation people, bad Earth. It really mixes the gray.
Yeah. And I think also I really like episodes that show us another character. Like, one thing that I really like about Avatar is that they're not afraid to, ignore the main characters for somebody else for a little while. Like you have the Zuko Alone episode, you have the Tales of Ba Sing Se episode, you have this episode that says, let's take a break from Aang and focus on someone else. And that kind of speaks to the strength of their writing and the strength of their characters, that we don't need to have Aang in every single episode to keep following the story and be interested.
Right.
Appa, he can't talk, but yet I understood everything that he was feeling, which I, applaud the animators for. I understood everything that he was feeling, and I was so captivated by his story, by his missing days,
Right.
It really speaks to the quality.
Yep. Truly does.
Okay, episode 17. Lake Laogai. So we start the episode with the gang looking for Appa. They're putting up posters. Sokka, bless him, he tries. Bless his heart, he tries. He's so earnest. Art is not his strong suit. Poetry, sure, but art not so much. So they got these posters, and they're gonna put them all up and try and find Appa. Toph, Judy comes back, and it's the original Judy. And so the gang is instantly suspicious, and they're like, what? And she's like, yeah, I went on vacation. You guys are so silly.
I'm the only Judy. There was no other Judy.
Yeah, right? And Aang blows up, and he's like, get out. We don't want to see you anymore. I'm the Avatar. I can do whatever I want, and you can't stop me. And they're like going to break some rules, and Toph goes, yeah, let's break some rules. And she blows out inside of the house.
Like,
be gay, do crime.
Love the enthusiasm.
Yeah. Something that surprises me, though, is so I know in Korra that Toph became a police chief. She became the head of police. Toph, the girl who said, let's break some rules, and blew out the side of a house, becomes a police officer, a person meant to uphold the rules. I don't get it. Make it make sense.
Yeah, when you bring it up like that.
Granted, I know that people change. I am not the same person I was when I was 12, that's for sure. But it just seems like such a weird path for her to go down. It's one of the reasons that I really don't have any interest in watching Korra. I'm not saying Korra is a bad show. That's not at all what I'm saying. I know that it's a very good show, and I know that it does a lot of really interesting and cool things, but that's one of the many reasons that I do not want to watch it.
Yeah. I mean, they try their best not to focus on past characters.
Yeah, no, I know that. I know that's not the main point of the show, but even so.
Aang's flying around, dropping the posters of Appa. One thing, how did they get the picture to be so well illustrated? Who drew that?
I don't know. I mean, I guess I assume the person in the print shop. Either Aang was very good at describing Appa, or they had seen a bison before.
Because they did an impeccable job.
Yeah. I mean, the people in Ba Sing Se weren't unknown. Like, they knew about the Avatar. Like, it wasn't, the Dai Li weren't keeping him a secret. So it's possible that, like, they knew someone who'd seen an air bison, or they found a picture of an air bison. I mean, there's a university in Ba Sing Se, so it stands to reason that there might be some sort of text about air bison that maybe the printer had or could research or something.
Maybe.
Or maybe Aang is that good at describing Appa.
But Aang is flying around. He's dropping the posters. And who finds one of the posters? Our favorite emo boy. Our favorite grunge teenager. Zuko.
Yeah, because Iroh is moving on up. Iroh gets basically poached from his original tea shop to open up his own tea shop, which good for him.
Yeah.
Good for him. He's really, committing to this whole lifestyle, and he's moving on up to the upper ring to serve tea to a higher clientele, and really be successful and make a success out of himself. And I think that's wonderful that Iroh is getting these opportunities to kind of reinvent himself.
I love how like the tea shop owner tried his best. He was like, "I'll make you senior chief advisor or senior assistant." Like, no, man, like you can't just make him the owner if you want to.
Yeah.
But he wouldn't go that far.
Yeah.
But, and I think it's really interesting that we see throughout their journey to, like, even when they were coming to Ba Sing Se, we see Iroh trying his best to not remind Zuko of Aang or anything like that. Because during Appa's last days, Appa flies over the ship that they're on.
Yeah.
And Zuko's like, "What's that?" And Iroh's like, "Go back to sleep."
Yeah.
So now that, and we see that once Zuko gets the poster, like that fire is relit in him, and he goes to Iroh. He's just like, "The Avatar is in Ba Sing Se, and he's looking for his bison." And I was just like, we could make a difference. Like we could have a better life here. Like, why are you still?
Yeah.
Come on, dude.
Yeah, it's sad because Zuko is obsessed with destiny. He's obsessed with his honor and his life in that particular way, but he doesn't realize, I guess, yet what that would entail. Like, if he were to achieve his destiny, the destiny that he wants, he doesn't understand what would happen. He just wants to do it. He just wants to complete his mission, his journey that he thinks is the correct one. And, it's sad that he can't kind of see the forest for the trees, because Iroh's right. True, it wouldn't be the life that they maybe envisioned for themselves at the very beginning, but they could have a very decent life here. They could make a good living, live in a good home. Zuko could, meet people and make friends and try to be a normal teenager, but he just can't get past, I think, the trauma and the truth of his old life. He can't move past it yet. And so he basically decides that he's going to try and search for Appa to find Aang. Meanwhile, everyone's kind of putting up posters in the city. Toph is like, "I could put up posters," and then she puts one up and she goes, "It's upside down, isn't it?" And it's not upside down. It's just completely on the wrong side. Gotta love Toph.
Gotta love her.
And we see Jet.
Yes.
And Katara immediately starts fighting him, which, yeah, I get it. Jet inspires that kind of reaction. But
she blushes when she does it.
Yeah. And Jet is like, "I don't know what you're talking about. I've been living here in the city. My whole team is gone. I have none of my freedom fighters." And then Smellerbee and Longshot come, and he's like, "What?" And they're like, "Jet, you're okay." And he's like, "What are you talking about?" But this, I think, is the episode where Toph reveals her, like, truth telling powers. Like, she's able to hear and tell if someone's lying, which is such a cool thing to be able to do. It really, really is. Like, that's so amazing. So she's able to see that Jet is telling the truth. He's been living in the city peacefully for months, and that Smellerbee and Longshot are telling the truth, that they saw Jet like a couple weeks ago when he disappeared at a party. Like, not at a party, after he was arrested.
Right.
Both of them are right. And Sokka's like, oh my God, he was brainwashed, which good job connecting the dots, Sokka.
Yeah.
So they realized that Jet was brainwashed, which is scary. And and you know, I honestly feel bad for Jet. I really do, because it's been a time for him. He has not had an easy life. Like ignoring all the stuff before. Like his parents were killed, the Fire Nation destroyed his village. He was like a feral child orphan in the woods. Like ignoring all that, he gets to this city to try and start a new life. He only has 2 members of his original like team or gang, only 2 friends with him. And he wants to start a new life, but he can't because he's still so focused on revenge and justice. And then it's just fight. He gets arrested. He gets brainwashed. He gets separated, and then he gets killed. Like, you know, it's been a rough couple of months for Jet. I feel bad. Like it's so sad because I see the potential for his arc. You know, he had the potential to really change and become a different person, and it's just aborted. It's an aborted arc, and he never gets to finish it. And there's a tragedy in that.
Yeah.
Not only that this character was struck down before they could really become who they were meant to be, but this child, he's a child, he's 16, 15, 16, like gets killed, and it's so sad. I do feel bad for Jet, you know, despite all the, you know, terrible things that he did. At the end of the day, he was just a scared, misguided child, and it's sad. It really is.
Very sad.
Yeah. So basically, they find Lake Laogai, which is this underground bunker under a lake, because that's what Jet kind of remembers. They try to jog his memory. Sokka puts some wheat in his mouth. Doesn't work. Katara tries to make him think of his parents, and it's very painful, but he remembers he was under the water, and that's where he was. So they go to Lake Laogai, and meanwhile, Zuko is like going to Lake Laogai to find Appa. And something that I think is really, really cool, it's a cool shot, is Jet's like, oh, I think Appa's behind this door, and the door opens, and it's Zuko in the blue spirit mask. That's a really cool transition. I really like that transition. And Zuko sees Appa, and Iroh is there. And this is honestly, I think, one of the first times we ever see Iroh like really, really mad, because he's yelling. He is not messing around. He's not playing around. He's yelling at Zuko, you know, basically explaining, like, you know, begging Zuko to just think for 1 goddamn second. Zuko, please just use your brain. Because this is entirely Zuko's MO. He just breaks into places and then hopes for the best. Like, this is not the first time that Zuko has broken somewhere and then been like, well, I guess I'll just see myself out. Like, he doesn't ever think through his plans, and Iroh knows that. And, you know, it's just, it must be so frustrating and upsetting for Iroh to see Zuko, someone that he really, really loves, making the same mistakes over and over and over again, and hurting himself in the process, when, like you said, they could have a real life here.
Yeah.
And, you know, but Zuko needed to hear that. Zuko needed to hear, okay, so you got Appa. Now what are you going to do? He's going to live in our apartment? You don't think these things through, Zuko. You have to start acting like an adult. You have to start behaving like an adult. You can't keep chasing after this phantom.
Yeah.
You know, you have to start living and being a real person, you know, and honestly, brilliant voice acting by Mako, because you hear his anger, you hear his frustration, you hear his devastation that Zuko is going to continue to hurt himself and cause himself pain, and, you know, never grow into the person that Iroh knows he can be. It's very sad.
And he had desperation too.
Yeah, it's desperation. Thank you. That's the other word I was looking for.
Urge him to like take a different path.
Yeah. Because I think that's Zuko's kind of main thing. He needs to realize who he wants to be. Does he want to follow in the path of his father, his grandfather, his great-grandfather, and so on and so forth? Does he want to keep kind of on this fool's mission to capture the Avatar, or does he just want to try something new, something different, something that might actually make him happy?
Right.
And then we cut back to the other gang, and they're all fighting the Dai Li. And we see Long Feng is fighting Jet and Aang, and he manages to kind of like set off Jet's brainwashing, and Jet starts attacking Aang. And, you know, you see Aang like try to reach him and be like, we're friends, like, don't do this, you know, which I think speaks to Aang's kindness and compassion, because he and Jet are not friends. Like, they're not friends.
Yeah.
But it says something about Aang that he is trying to help Jet no matter what. He sees, perhaps like we do, the potential in Jet and the new leaf that Jet is trying to turn over. And then Long Feng kills Jet.
Yeah.
I was never confused about that. When they brought that up in Ember Island Players, that like, oh, it's a little unclear about his death or not, I was like, what are you talking about? Like, he obviously died.
Well, it was unclear. As a kid, it was unclear for me.
Oh, really? Okay, see, I wouldn't have known that because I wasn't a kid. But for a kid, it was unclear. Okay, that's fair. I mean, like you said, there's no blood, and very rarely, and they don't ever really say the word die or death. I mean, granted, in the show they do say kill, like I have to kill the Fire Lord, or you know, that person killed that person, but we don't really see people die on screen. So I can understand why it would be a little unclear. I just assumed that when Smellerby said like, oh, Jet'll be okay, and then Toph said no, they're lying, I was like, so Jet's gone. Bye, Jet. Also, we hear Longshot speak, which is like super sobering. Like that is also, I think, one of the ways that I knew that it was not, Jet wasn't coming back from this.
Yeah.
You know? Because with a character like Longshot, when they speak, it's to be taken completely seriously. They have to get out of there. You know, Longshot and Smellerby will take care of Jet. And, it's just, it's sad. It really is sad. And I think that this is also the first, like, death we really see.
Yeah.
You know? I don't think we really see anyone else die.
Well, we thought that Zhao died.
That's true.
We thought that
That's true. I mean, and if you don't necessarily watch Korra, there's no way that you wouldn't know that.
Right.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, I forgot about that. But thankfully, Appa is reunited with Aang.
Yes.
And they're just back together again. The gang, the family is back together again. And they managed to escape Long Feng and the Dai Li and kind of regroup.
The shot of Momo flying up and then Appa coming down.
Yeah, oh, that's such a good shot.
It's like a hooray type of moment.
Yeah.
And after just like a series of episodes, just this ending on such a sour note, you finally get some
happy
type
ending,
of
finally get a somewhat happy ending.
You're right.
Yeah. And Zuko gets out of Lake Laogai because he was the one who set Appa free, which is a good move. Good job, Zuko. And he basically decides to give up his blue spirit persona, get rid of that part of him, which is very symbolic. I mean, Zuko is kind of leaving his past behind him at this point. Another past. I mean, he does it a lot where he leaves his past. He cut off his ponytail to no longer be Prince Zuko, and he gives up his blue spirit mask to become Lee, to try to start a new life as a new person.
Right.
Any kind of connection to the Fire Nation and his past is now gone, which I think is a good step in the right direction. But yeah, it's just, they're reunited and it feels so good. You know? Yeah. Also, another kind of fun fact, I say fun, it's not fun, but fact, is Lake Laogai is actually a real place. It was the name of a horrific like work camp in China.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So the creators did their research when they were naming things.
Clearly.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know the specifics of it, but yeah, it was like some kind of like work camp or like torture prison place. It was not a good place.
All right.
Honestly, it's kind of crazy that, Ba Sing Se is just brainwashing people right and left. Like, the amount, it's really surprising. The amount of work that it must take to keep people unaware of a war when literally, like, less than 10 years ago, a general was trying to break into their city. Like, it wasn't that long ago that Iroh was, like, a bad guy. And he was trying to, like, hurt and get into Ba Sing Se. So the amount of work that Long Feng must have to do to keep everything, like, quiet, it must be ridiculous, astronomical. Like, you have to wonder if it's worth it, you know?
I mean,
he would say it is, but
it's worth it for him so he could, like, keep control of Ba Sing Se.
yeah, keep order.
Because, like, the citizens know of the war, but they just know not to mention it. It's the Earth King that's completely oblivious to the whole thing. So it's just, and that's it's almost like a Truman Show type situation.
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, not exactly, but yeah, it's like where he's oblivious to the truth.
And everyone knows, but like they have to keep hush hush.
Yeah, about it. Okay, let's go on to episode 18.
The Earth King.
The Earth King. So, the gang is all together again, and they realize that they have to talk to the Earth, and they have to let him know, what's going on and what's happening, that there's this opportunity to destroy the Fire Nation, and they have to take it. I really appreciate how how optimistic Sokka is in this episode. He is just so, like, positive. Everything's gonna be fine. I don't know where this came from, but he's just super like, yeah, everything's gonna be great, and we're gonna win. Like, God bless you, Sokka.
Even it's kind of funny because they kind of Sokka and Katara, they kind of reverse roles.
Yeah.
Because Katara just like 1 hour of like good fortune, a months of misfortune, doesn't quite say, hey, let's do this, you know?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
but Sokka was just like, hey, like, listen, the good energy is on our side.
Yeah.
So like let's just
take it till it ends. Yeah. So they basically storm the castle.
Mm-hmm.
And part of me, when I was watching this, part of me was like, why doesn't Aang just like go Avatar? Like, why doesn't he just go into the Avatar state and just take care of business? But then I was like, oh, he doesn't need to, because they're all ridiculously powerful and doing just fine on their own.
Yeah.
Like, he doesn't need to go into the Avatar state because these 4 teenagers are like destroying the Earth King's house just on their own.
Just
like,
decimating them.
The skill that Katara, Toph, and Aang have is crazy. Like, the way that she's able to grab people with the water and just whip them and push them away. The way that Toph just so effortlessly moves huge slabs of rock and everything. And Aang, working together with the both of them as well as airbending is just really, really cool to watch.
Yes.
It's funny. I was watching it with my mother, and I paused it right before they go into the Earth King's, like, main hall, and you just see the 4 kids and like all the rubble around them. And my mom was like, huh, they're certainly making themselves known. And I was like, yeah, they know what they're doing.
Real quick, when they made the decision to storm the castle, I just like the call to action that Katara did. Let's fly, and then Appa roars. It's like, yeah, like you get that rush of, yeah, they're back.
Yeah, the team is here. Yeah, the band's back together. Yeah, no, I love that.
When Katara like whips some soldiers into the water and she freezes them,
mm-hmm.
I couldn't help but think someone drowned.
Oh yeah,
someone definitely drowned.
Oh yeah, they're all dead.
Yeah,
they're all dead. Like, there's a bunch of posts on Tumblr. It's not a specific one, but there's this post on Tumblr that, like, man, for someone who really doesn't like killing all that much, Aang sure has killed a lot of people. Like, all that stuff that he did where he would just like throw people into walls, like, if they're not dead, they broke a couple of bones.
Eternal bleeding.
Like when Toph like steps down and those pillars shoot up and like the people are lying on them and they hit the ceiling, those guys are dead now. Like, they're dead now. Like these children have killed so many people. Perhaps not on purpose, but definitely through consequence.
Yeah.
Like Aang, you for such a pacifist, you really have done a lot of damage.
Yes.
Like they all have. Like it's so funny, you know. But the show, because it is a kid's show, it doesn't allude to that. It doesn't concern the audience with what happened to those guys. It's just like they're the bad guys, moving on, you know.
Actually, when I was a kid watching this, I thought just specifically the water scene.
Okay.
Because some of them pop back up and
Yeah.
then they're frozen. They're stuck there. But I don't know. I just remember specifically seeing the amount of soldiers that fell and the amount that came back up. I was like, there's still some under there.
Oh, yeah.
And the water's frozen. So how are they going to?
Oh,
yeah.
oh, well, you know, listen, they're in a war. You got to kill people sometimes. You know,
yes.
whatever. I mean, it's awful, but like whatever.
Whatever.
They got to do stuff, you know.
Yeah.
So you kill a few people. Who cares?
There's
I'm not
more.
condoning that. I'm not condoning that. I just want to clarify.
So we see the big fancy door.
Mhm.
Bravo for Sokka for the attempt to knock it down.
Yeah.
With the kick.
Yeah, like honestly, these like 2 episodes are so funny for Sokka because he's really trying.
He tries.
He's really trying.
Like, yeah. Nothing.
Hell yeah.
And then Aang just blows it down. He's
Yeah.
like, can you warn somebody before you do that?
Yeah. And so they see the Earth King.
Yes.
Meanwhile, in the upper ring, Zuko and Iroh get home, and Zuko faints and comes down with a very, very strong and terrible sickness. Basically, what happens is Zuko does one good thing, and he immediately has a mental and physical existential breakdown. His body, his little emo body, cannot handle that he did one good thing in his life. And it just breaks down. It's like, I can't compute. Major system failure, shut down. Like, it's so, like, it's really, really cool. It's a really cool situation for Zuko to be in. And I think it's very meaningful, but it's also absolutely hilarious because his little bitch body couldn't handle it.
I mean, as funny as that sounds, simplified, I don't think it's just because of the one good thing. It was like the specific act, the fact that he basically, like the way Iroh explained it, he abandoned the path that he thought he was on, which was capturing the Avatar and everything, and the fact that like he willingly let Apple go, which in turn is letting go of capturing the Avatar, and now his brain and his body's just all like, what the fuck do we do? Like that was our whole point.
Yeah.
Of
I know. I'm making the joke for like I'm oversimplifying to make the joke, but you're right. I mean it really is. You know, Iroh says it's a metamorphosis, and he's absolutely right. You know, Zuko, who has basically had one kind of understanding of the world, one way of living, one way of thinking, and now has done a complete 180, and you know, he has to kind of reconcile that with himself. And the way that Iroh helps him makes me think that Iroh had something similar.
Yes.
That Iroh went through a similar transformation, and makes me sad because he might have been alone when he was going through it.
Yeah.
So it's nice that he's there to help Zuko, give him water, keep him warm, you know, sweat it out. You know. Yeah, so they're with the Earth King, and they're trying to explain the war, and the Earth King doesn't believe them, which, you know, to be fair, why would he?
Right.
I mean, I feel a little bad for the Earth King because he's obviously been sheltered his entire life. Like, I'm sure from the time he was an infant, he's been kept in the palace. He didn't go anywhere. He barely saw anything. Everybody came to him. So it's not surprising that he would be so suspicious of, you know, Aang and the Avatar, and be more open to the Dai Li and Long Feng's kind of wisdom. But so I understand where he's coming from, but also it's like, oh man, he's such an idiot. Like, he's such an idiot. But basically, the gang goes through all these things to try to get him to understand that there's like a war. So they show him like Long Feng's leg where Appa bit him, and he's like, interesting. And they try to show him like Lao Guy, but it's gone, which only proves the conspiracy more. You know, and eventually the gang is like, oh, we'll show you the outer wall. And he's like, well, I've never been there before. And it's like, you're the king. dude, and you've never been to the outer wall. Like, you're a bad king, which is the point, but you're a bad king.
Well, he said like no one from the royal family has ever been to the outer wall.
Yeah. Well,
So-
that just makes me think that the Dai Li have been in control long before
Possibly.
this particular king was in power.
Yep.
I mean, the war's been going on for 100 years, so it makes me think that, like, the Dai Li have just been doing this to, like, his father before him, you know?
And it's something that Aang kind of hinted at when it first came to Ba Sing Se. He was like 100 years ago, he always heard that Ba Sing Se was a little weird,
Yeah.
and like he never wanted to like go there.
Yeah. It's a city of walls and secrets.
Yep.
You know? Like, we see when the Dai Li is, like, programming the Judy women, they are told, like, the walls keep us safe. The walls keep us protected.
Yeah.
So they basically let the king ride on Appa. And they show him the outer wall, and we see that the big drill is still there. And Long Fang's like, oh, that's ours. That's a construction project. And Katara's like, then why is there a Fire Nation symbol?
It's imported, of course. you know you can't trust domestic utility, whatever.
Domestic machinery, which, like, not a good thing to say, Long Fang. Shouldn't you be buying from inside your own kingdom? But whatever.
Whatever.
And thankfully, the Earth King is like, the Avatar, you know, that guy who stands for peace and unity, is right. What a shock.
Right.
And he arrests Long Fang, and he basically promises to help the gang fight the war. Which, yay, you know, we're making progress.
Yeah. Looks like Long Fang is long gone.
That is a really good joke, though. Like, that's a really good pun.
They all give him the side eye, though. He was
Yeah,
like-
I know. Nobody appreciates Sokka's humor, but I do. I appreciate Sokka's humor.
We love you, Sokka.
Oh, we love him. Okay. So yeah. So meanwhile, Zuko's still sick. He's basically having hallucinations and visions. And at this point, and I'm going to bring it up later because it comes back later, I'm going to bring up the idea of red Oni, blue Oni. So red Oni, blue Oni is a popular trope in films and movies. It originates from, I believe, and if I get this wrong, please forgive me. I'm trying to be culturally sensitive. It comes from a Japanese folklore. An Oni is like a troll or an ogre, basically, and it comes in two types, red and blue, and they're different like personalities and temperaments. So the idea in trope form is that two people who are connected to each other through various means, whether they're related or they have similar destinies or their destinies cross, or they're like enemies or heroes together, but they're connected to each other, inhabit these two personalities, red Oni, blue Oni. Red Oni is very passionate, impulsive, a little wild. They're more inclined to break rules. They have a lot of like feelings that are sometimes uncontrollable. They usually are associated with fire and with red. They don't have to match those colors, but that's what they do. Whereas the blue Oni is usually seen as more calm, connected more to serenity and peace, being more reserved, sometimes a little more spiritual. However, if the blue Oni is a villain, they usually are very, very scary because they're super, super calm until you get them very angry and then they blow up and go crazy. And so I think it's interesting, especially for Zuko, that he is surrounded by the imagery of a blue dragon and a red dragon. Zuko himself is very much red Oni. That's his personality. He's very impulsive. He's very loud. He doesn't always think things through. Whereas like Aang, who I kind of view as his blue Oni, especially later on when we have them meet the dragons in book 3, because Aang is a lot more calm. He's a lot more collected. He's definitely more wise and learned, I think, in a very specific way. Not to say that Zuko's stupid, because he's not, but he's just different in his intelligence. And when Aang, doesn't really get angry a lot, but when he does, he blows up. So I think it's really interesting that when Zuko is having his vision, he is surrounded by a red and a blue dragon, and the blue dragon is voiced by Azula, and the red dragon is voiced by Iroh, which again, that's their personalities. I definitely think that Iroh is not super 100% Red Oni where he's like exactly like Zuko. He definitely has calmed down in his old age, but he shares a lot of similarities with Zuko in terms of their personality, whereas Azula is definitely the evil villain version of a Blue Oni, where they're calm, they're more reserved, they they think things through a lot further. They're kind of calm, cool, and collected. And so she's telling him, relax, embrace the darkness, embrace the badness inside of you, give into it. And Iroh is begging Zuko, no, you have to fight it. You have to be good. You have to stand up for what's right. And these two dragons are like warring inside of him. It's really so cool. It's such an interesting concept, Zuko's whole metamorphosis.
And the blue dragon tells him to sleep like mother.
Yeah.
And that...
Again, more things to tell me that Ursa was dead. Sorry. Okay. But still, that. I was like, oh, so she's still dead. Okay. Guys, Bryke. Anyway.
Well, Zuko thinks she's dead too.
Yeah.
So...
Yeah.
Like,
we all think she's dead. But yeah, no, I just think it's a really cool concept that I think is such an integral part of Zuko's character, because like you could even connect his Red Oni to other Blue Onis, not just Aang. You could even do it with like Katara and Sokka. Not so much Katara because she can be a little like hot-headed too sometimes, but with Sokka you could definitely do Red Oni, Blue Oni with him and Zuko, which I think is on purpose, because I've always believed that Zuko, Azula, and Sokka, Katara are meant to be parallels to each other. Mm-hmm. They have a lot of things that make them connected, which is why, though I understand it, and I'm not like, shaming anybody, I don't ship Zutara, because I always viewed Katara as the foil to Azula. Therefore, Zuko would view her like a sister, that type of relationship. So that's why I don't personally ship it. I do understand why, but that's why I don't, because those are the parallels that I connected in my brain.
Okay.
But
with that, obviously the obvious reference, well, maybe not obvious, but what I got from it was the Matrix, the red pill, the blue pill.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely.
The blue pill go back to being Joe Schmo. Red pill, open your eyes.
Yeah.
So I thought that's what they were doing, but that makes more sense. But what you explained, being that, what I assume that a lot of Avatar is based on Japanese Asian culture.
I dropped my cap. It's fine. I'll pick it up later. No, yeah. I mean, yeah, it's a very common trope in a lot of things. So it's not like, it was so unique. But I think it's a really interesting concept and a really good way to kind of connect Zuko to his fellow characters in the show. And then Zuko has this vision where he wakes up and he is the Avatar, basically. He sees himself with the blue arrows and everything. And foreshadowing. Foreshadowing. Because it's very obvious. Like, I was very aware of the fact that Zuko and Aang's destinies were intertwined. It's very obvious from the beginning that Zuko and Aang's destinies are intertwined. But at this point, we still don't know why.
Right.
And so this is fun foreshadowing. Now that I know the truth, it's very fun. So then we cut back to the gang and the Earth King, and Sokka is going to be such a good leader. Like the speech that he gives to the Earth King, explaining what's going to happen, when the Fire Nation is going to be powerful, when they're not, the day of the Black Sun, this is when they have to fight. He's so like strong and succinct and powerful in that moment. Like, oh, he's going to be such a good leader. Whether he becomes like the chief or an ambassador or something like in his future, we don't really know. He's going to be so good at it.
Yeah.
He really has the capability to lead. And I think that's wonderful. And we really see that,
Yeah. He's really coming into his own.
Yeah.
And it's just amazing. It's really great and fun to see his growth from episode 1 to where he is now.
Yeah, he's a completely different person, and I think that's a great thing.
Yes.
I think he has grown. I think, this isn't the stupid comic relief that we started out with. This is an adult. I mean, this is a guy who is ready to fight and give his life to protect other people and save the world. And I just think that's wonderful.
He's a man.
He's a man now. And unfortunately, the gang has to split up, which is pretty customary. I feel like in TV shows there like this, where there's like an adventure storyline, there's always a moment where the gang splits up and they come back together again. So I wasn't surprised to like be like, oh, and now they have to say goodbye. So basically, Toph returns to find her mother. Katara stays in the Earth Kingdom to help the king. Sokka goes off to find his father and basically get them to join the fight. And Aang decides to leave and go see the guru.
Yeah.
So they all split off, and it's very sad. But, but obviously we know they're going to find each other again. There's a whole third season, but it's like, aw, they just got together again. They just got to all be together as a family. Now they're splitting up again.
Yeah.
Also, Sokka's positivity bites him in the butt because he's like, oh, the Kyoshi warriors are coming. They're really good friends of ours. You can trust them. And it's like, no. My mom was like, 3 Kyoshi warriors, huh? I bet it's those Fire Nation girls. And I was like, good job, Mom. Yeah, good job.
Nice.
Yeah, so they all go their separate ways, and the 3 Kyoshi warriors come, and it's Azula, May, and Ty Lee. Once again, Kyoshi warrior makeup looks good on everyone. It is such a good look.
Can't go wrong with it.
Can't go wrong with it, yeah. So they're there, so some bad shit's gonna go down because they've infiltrated the Earth Kingdom. And we also know that the Dai Li is loyal to Long Feng. So that's more just corruption from the inside out for the Earth Kingdom. So it's going to be, some stuff is going to happen.
Yep. And just when you thought you was going to get another happy ending.
Yeah, right?
And Toph gets kidnapped.
So she's kind of in trouble. So a lot of people are in trouble.
Yes.
I mean, Katara's okay. Sokka's okay. Aang is okay. Zuko's getting there. He's like, he comes out the other side. He's going to be okay. But the shit's going down.
Yes. And I love how they play with music. When before, or as soon as Azula says, we are the Earth King's humble servants, whatever.
Yeah.
It's just they hit her little bell, her ding.
Yeah.
Dun, 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 dun. Like I love how they play with music.
Yeah, I love that Azula has like a motif.
Yes.
I think that's so clever. Because it really does evoke an emotion of like fear and trepidation.
Mm-hmm.
But that's for the next episode. We're not talking about that yet. But yeah, I think all in all, these are some really good episodes because we can feel the ramping up to the big battle. We know that stuff is going to happen, and it's going to be big, and it's going to be a really crazy fight.
Yeah.
But first, Aang has to learn a little bit more about reaching the Avatar state. Katara has to help the king get an army together. Sokka has to reconvene with his father, and Toph has to break free.
Yeah. So much to do.
And
it's a lot to do, but nothing ever feels rushed. Like everything is done at such a well done pace.
Yeah.
And to think that there's only 3 more episodes left of this book?
I think 2.
2?
Maybe. I don't know. Netflix lists them really weird. I don't know what it is with that. But even so, yeah.
It's just like because in today's animation stuff, when a show has when the show sets up this many plot points, when they get them done, it feels rushed. It feels like, oh my,
or they forget something.
They forget something.
Yeah.
The pacing's just off. It's like, why did? And I felt like a lot of shows of recent ended that way, where like they will get to the ending and the ending just feels like, whoa, like how did we get here so fast?
Yeah.
Like, but no, this show, I can't even explain how they did it, but they just do it so well.
I mean, I assume it's just, really good storyboarding and plot point development.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure that the writers, of which there were a good amount, which I think is always good. It's always good to have more writers. because you get different perspectives and things. I assume that they all just really sat down and said, so what is the arc of this season, and where do the characters start, where do they end, and what has to happen? What beats do we have to hit? And they plotted it all out, I assume. I mean, I wasn't there, but they plotted it all out, and they kind of just assigned, well, this happens in this episode, this happens in this episode. And I think when you come to a show with a very clear idea of where you want it to start and where you want it to finish, it's going to have really good pacing. It's going to have excellent storytelling, because I think that's one of the issues with more modern TV shows. The writers go into it with a great idea, but they don't know where they want to take it. And then you have seasons that are just full of nothing. And then you have them rushing to tie up the loose ends in the last 3 episodes. And it's just frustrating. It's just frustrating. Like, you need to know where you're going.
Yeah.
You know, it's so important to a good story. You need to know where it ends. You can't just be writing as you go along, you know?
And also, I feel like the studios are also to blame.
Yeah, I agree, because they're not giving them specific, like, you have 3 seasons go. They're like, oh, you got renewed for another season. What do you mean? We already cleared up all the plot points. What do we do now? Yeah.
You didn't tell us anything.
Yeah, that happens a lot. That's, I think, a lot of why certain seasons of television shows are good or bad, because you know, they weren't prepared for another season, and it shows.
Right. Or they were told that they were being canceled, so they rushed the ending, and then they were like, oh, hey, like, by the way, you're not canceled. You get picked up for another season. It's like, well, fuck, we just rushed our ending.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Hey.
So I think it was, so while whether or not there was ever supposed to be a 4th season is still debated to this day, I do think it was very wise that Brielle, the 2 of them, were like, let's do 3 seasons and that'll be it.
Yes.
I fully believe that they never intended to make a 4th season. I believe that. You know, you can have a different perspective, but that's what I believe. And it shows, because everything ends pretty much neatly, succinctly, perfectly, except for a few things, and we'll talk about them when we get there. Everything ends the way that it should.
I was happy with the ending.
Yeah. Oh, no, me too. Yeah. I was very, very happy with the way that everything ended. You know?
Yeah.
All right.
Oh, and just one more.
Yeah.
Shout out to Phil Lamar.
Yes, Phil Lamar as the Earth King.
Yes.
He has such a distinct voice.
Yes.
It was such a treat to hear him. I was like, oh, it's that guy.
I love him. Samurai Jack.
Yeah, Samurai Jack.
The Green Lantern.
He's also just like been on a bunch of shows.
Yes.
Like, he's all the time on, like, you know, like every kind of cartoon that you listen to, he's usually on at some point. He plays a character, from like adult animation, like Family Guy, to like, you know, like you said, Samurai Jack, like stuff on Cartoon Network. Like, he's everywhere.
Foster's Homes for Imaginary Friends.
Yeah, Foster's Home. Like, he's
Billy
everywhere.
Mandy, yeah.
He's also
great.
just a very brilliant, I think, comedian in general. Like, he's a good actor. Like, I remember watching him on like Mad TV. He's just a really good actor in general, you know?
I love him.
Yeah, he's good.
One of my top 5.
Oh, yeah, I could see that, yeah.
All right.
All right, everyone. Thank you guys for listening, for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe if you're watching us on YouTube. We appreciate your support so much, and we will see you next week.
See ya.
Bye. Bye.